Hi, this is Mrs. Barton. This segment is going to be talking about reading notes. So this is something that I will require of you for every chapter. Okay, so your first chapter is chapter 3. I explained in class that the books are meant to teach yourself how to learn, like to teach yourself the material. And we use textbooks in education because it's really easy to use them to teach because of the way they're set out. So I handed out this reading notes template. Okay, this is what I will look at for your assignment. Okay, so this should be written out, handwritten. All right, you'll make sure on the top right you have your name, which class you're in. You guys are in Allied Health 1, okay, and the date that you're doing them. And you'll do reading notes, chapter 3, okay, up at the top. Now, there's different sections to this. So there's the terms, then you have subjects, and then you have your summary, and you have review questions, okay? So I don't want you to just blatantly copy things down from the book because that's not going to get you anywhere, okay? That's taking information and spitting out the same information. I want you to take information and produce something that you've created, okay? Because that's the only way that you're going to remember it is if it's something you've created, okay? I don't want you to do blatant memorization because it's going to go in one ear and out the other. All right. Also, I don't want you to waste your time. All right. Reading notes are supposed to be a study tool in order to make your class time more effective. And ultimately, it's supposed to be your main study tool for your tests. Every chapter you're going to have a test. And if you already know things, don't write them down. If it's something that you came into this class knowing, don't write it down. There's going to be some things that you already know. So most people know what a nurse is, right? But maybe you don't know that there's different levels to a nurse. There's an RN, there's a BSN, there's an MSN, right? Depending on which level of education you have, right? So only write down what you don't know. So I'm going to refer back to this throughout, but we're going to look at the actual book and what parts of the book that I want you to be familiar with. So, the first page of chapter 3, this is on page 38, okay? There's chapter objectives. Now, whenever you read the book, try and figure out what the whole point of it is. What should you be able to do to make sure that you know that material, right? I'm sure you've read stuff before, and after you read it, you're like, what did I just read? And then you have to go back and reread it again. Well, I did that in college, and I would reread things over and over and over again, and I would say, this just doesn't make any sense, right? So by the end of this chapter, these are the things that you should be able to do. Okay, you should be able to distinguish the differences between an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. You should know the difference between a certification, a registration, a licensure. Okay, who is responsible for issuing each of those, right? Describe at least 10 different health careers by including a definition of the career. 3, job duties of that career. What education does it take to do that job? And then also, what kind of employment opportunities are there? So where would you find a job doing this? Okay, would you be in a hospital? Would you be in a doctor's office? Would you be in a clinic? Are you going to be in a medical records room, right? Also, are the job prospects going to be there by the time you get done with your education? Okay, if it's a job that a computer could easily do, well, we keep having computers take over more and more jobs, so probably not going to be the best prospect. So try and look at jobs that have a positive outlook versus a negative outlook for how many jobs there's going to be in the future. Investigate at least one health career by writing to listed sources or using the internet to request additional information on the career. You should be able to look up, when you go to look for a job, you need to be able to search for a job. Okay, you need to know what these jobs actually do. Okay, you can say, I want to be a doctor, but do you really know what a doctor does or what is included in that? All right, the next one. Interpret at least 10 abbreviations used to identify healthcare career workers. Right, so over here on your terms, you see athletic trainers are abbreviated as AT. Right, and then we have biomedical equipment technicians. It's abbreviated as BET. Right, so those are the abbreviations that you should be able to identify. Okay, if I gave you DO, can you tell me what that means? If not, when you do your reading notes, you should probably write it down. Alright, and then the last objective is define, pronounce, and spell all key terms. Okay, which brings us to our key terms section of our book. The key terms, okay, should be all the terminology that you need to know for this chapter. Alright, all of the content-specific terminology you should know. There's going to be other words throughout the text that you're not going to know. Alright, and when you do your reading notes, you should look those up and write down the meaning. Because when you go to read your reading notes, you need to be able to read and understand what you've written. Okay? So, when you're doing your reading notes, okay, notice that terms, the terms were the first section there. Alright, you write down all the terms you don't know. Okay, put the definition in your own words. Okay, how would you actually remember what that job is or that name of the job is, right? So the key terms is the next part. Okay, and then we get into the actual content of the chapter. Now, chapter 3 is painstakingly long. It's 40 pages, okay? But I want you to take all of these step by step. Make sure you understand each section, right? So, up here I have a subject. Now, this is just in an outline format. An outline format, if you've ever written an outline before. Okay? So, in general, if it's in blue, it might be a subject. Okay? Or maybe a subject could just be one item if you know a lot about that item, right? But in general, probably stick with whatever is blue should be a subject, right? There's some blue, there's some blue, there's some blue, right? So on and so forth. Okay, so as you read, you know, pay attention to those. Alright, once you get to the end of the chapter, alright, this last page before we get to chapter 4, okay, chapter 3 summary. It gives you a summary. Alright, it gives you a summary, but I don't want you to use that summary. Okay, that's their words. I want you to use your words to summarize. Right, so the next section of your reading notes is a summary. So to summarize the content in your own words. Now, when you complete your summary, this should be at least 5 sentences. Okay, this chapter happens to be 40 pages, right? So 5 sentences shouldn't be too difficult to come up with. Now, they should not be from the summary from the book. Don't even look at that. Don't worry about it. I want you to come up with your own summary, okay? So also, with your summary, I want you to go back to the beginning where you have your chapter objectives. Okay, and your summary should include information from the text that responds, if I can spell correctly, responds to the chapter objectives. Okay? Alright, so part of your summary, you should probably be summarizing certification, registration, and licensure. Okay? You should probably include a few different abbreviations. Alright? Maybe what are their job duties? What education is required for them? Okay? And then, after you're done with that, your summary, go to these review questions. You should be able to answer each one of these review questions. And you're going to number them. You don't have to write the question out, but you do have to respond to the question. Okay? And you should answer them. This chapter happens to have 8 questions. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. It just depends. So that's going to be part of your reading notes. Okay? So let's go through a little bit of the chapter. So the first part is terms. Alright, so I want you to go through, okay, each one. Right, so we have chapter 3 notes. Okay, well, reading notes. Alright, and you're going to have your name up here. Okay, because you're in the first semester of Allied Health. And then the date. Today just so happens to be 9/19. So whatever day you're doing this, that's fine. Okay. So the first section is terms from our reading notes template, which is that white paper that I handed out on Wednesday. Okay. So the first term here is an admitting officer or admitting clerk. Okay. If you know it, move on. Don't worry about writing it down. If you don't really know what an admitting officer or an admitting clerk is, okay, we might want to look that up. Okay? That's going to be health information. Okay. Health information. Health informatics careers. Alright, so an admitting officer or clerk. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that. Okay, so I'm going to write it down. Okay, so an admitting officer, let's find it in here so we can find the exact description. Okay, so they work in the admissions department of a healthcare facility. They are responsible for obtaining all necessary information when a patient is admitted to the facility. Okay, assigning rooms, maintaining records, and processing information when the patient is discharged. Okay, so in here, basically, they're worried about making sure that a patient, when they're admitted to a hospital or facility, they're in the right spot, they have the right information, right? So we know that multiple people can have the same name. Okay? My name is Jessica Barton. There are a million Jessica Bartons in this world. So how would the hospital know between me, Jessica Barton, and another Jessica Barton? Well, 2 Jessica Bartons could happen to be born on the same day, so maybe a birth date may not be the best way to distinguish them. Usually, they wind up distinguishing based off of a social security number. So these are the people that obtain personal health information for admissions to an ER, hospital, etc., right? Depending on what kind of facility it is. Okay? And I know that personal health info are things like name, birthday, social security number, what is their chief complaint for coming into the emergency room. Okay? Right? So that's how I would remember them. Okay, and that's from my personal experience. So, let's go back to the front. Alright. So the second one is art, music, dance therapist. So say you already know exactly what they do. Okay? Let's go on to the associate's degree. Let's see You know, say you don't know what an associate's degree is. We're going to write it down, okay? Let's find some more information about it. I happen to know that the education is right towards the front, okay? It's right in the front, okay? The associate's degree is given by a career technical school or a community college after completion of a prescribed 2-year course of study. Okay, so this takes 2 years, and it's given out by a community college, okay, by a community college or career tech school, right? Career tech education school, okay. So go through all the terms, all right, and whatever you know, don't worry about writing down. Never write anything down that you know. Only write down what you don't know. Now, this has a lot of terms. This chapter is going to be very term heavy, and it's going to be a lot of work up front. But I guarantee you it's going to make things so much easier to study and process while we're in class. Now, this next part, okay, so we have terms. We already got done with that. So now we have subjects. This goes into the actual outline. So you're going to read, all right, so remember how I said anything in blue, probably going to be a subject in this book, okay? Now, we're going to put number 1. All right, intro to health careers. Now, what kind of helps me stay organized? Okay, I'm kind of a colorful kind of girl, all right? And to keep things more separated, I might highlight, right? Make it stick out, okay? All right, so intro to health careers. So I'm going to read through, okay? Read through, and I'm going to find something that I don't know, okay? Generally, if something is bolded, it's something you should know. If you don't know what it is, you write it down. So say you don't know what an HSTE program is, okay? So let's write it down. HSTE. Okay? Abbreviate wherever possible, just so long as you know exactly what you were supposed to say, right? So I know tech is short for technology, education, ed is short for education, or you could put edu, okay? Whatever you understand, don't put in more work and time than you have to, okay? So, Health Science Tech Education Program. So these prepare students for immediate employment in many health careers or for additional education after graduation. So, okay, I'm going to put a little a, all right, preps, short for prepares, prep students for employment. That's supposed to be employment, or post-secondary education. Now, if you don't know what post-secondary is, post means after, graduate, or secondary is high school. So post-secondary means after high school. So if you need to put instead, or school after high school, right? Okay, put whatever you understand. Okay, if you need to make notes in Arabic, make notes in Arabic. Okay, ultimately what you need to know is the English words and what they identify for. Okay, use your primary language if you have another primary language. Do whatever it is you gotta do. Okay, now keep reading, okay? If you don't know what an associate's degree is, we could write it down. So we could go B. Okay. All right, let's go with degrees because we have a lot of them. All right, so we have an associate's. All right, an associate's is 2 years. Okay. Or, okay, from a career tech education school. Okay, these are things like Dorsey, Ross. Those are career technical schools. Okay, or associate's degrees are given out by community colleges. All right, like Wayne Community College, Mott Community College, Oakland Community College. Okay. Now, next we have a bachelor's. Okay. All right, so this is 4 more years, and it's given by a college or university. Now, there's another way you can do this instead of writing it on an outline. If it's better for you to make a table, so you have associates, you have bachelor's, okay, you have master's, and you have doctorate. Put it in a table, right? You can have education, number of years. Okay, associates, it's 2. Bachelor's is 4 or more. Master's is 1 or more after bachelor's degree. Okay, and then the doctorate, so you have a couple different routes. Okay, so if you keep reading, other careers require a doctorate, doctoral, or doctor's degree. Okay, now this is 2 or more years after master's or doctorate, or this is 4 to 6 years of additional study. All right, associates. So, what kind of schools? Okay, associates, right? We talked about CTE, right? Career Tech Education. All right, so those schools are like Dorsey or Ross. Okay, and we have community colleges like Wayne. Okay, bachelor's is a college or university. Okay, so a college like Baker College. All right, university like U of M, Michigan State. Okay, master's can be awarded by a college or university. Okay, and I'm just reading this straight from right here. Okay, and a doctorate is awarded by a college or university as well. Okay, so, and I want to get a little creative because, you know, I'm pretty colorful here. Also, it helps me pick out what's important in here, right? There's a lot of writing, right? It's just like, you know, if you've ever seen Charlie Brown, right? The more, when the adults talk, it goes womp, 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 right? You see a bunch of writing, that's exactly what it's going to look like. Womp, 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 womp. Okay, so make it pop. Make it enjoyable to look at. Make it readable. please make it readable. Okay, I can read this. If I put this down and pick it back up later, I'm going to be able to read this and know what it says. Don't use abbreviations or shortcuts where you're going to pick it up in a week and you don't know what it says. So please be diligent. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. If you need to write something down that you don't know, write it down. Okay, next one, certification, registration, and licensure. It's in blue. So what the hey? I am going to make number 2, right? Because it's another heading, another subject, right? Subject, subject, right? We just keep going right on down the line. Okay, so this is certification. Okay, registration. I know REG, short for registration, and licensure. Alright, and it's blue, so I'm going to make it blue. Okay, you can make it whatever color you want. If you want to do colors, you don't have to do colors. Okay, so very first thing is going to be certification. Means that a person has fulfilled requirements of education and performance and meets the standards and qualifications established by the professional association or government agency that regulates a particular career. That's a lot. I don't want to write all that. Okay, so if I read it again, okay, means that you fulfilled requirements of education and performance standards that were placed by a professional association. Okay, so the certification is the education and skills. Education and skills. Okay. And it has to meet standards. Alright, even in your education now for allied health, the state has established, hey, our allied health students need to learn how to keep track of a patient's health chart. How do you do that? So by the end of the year, guess what? At some point in time, you will have learned how to document vitals in a patient's chart. Okay? So this is where a certification comes from a certified program, okay, and it meets standards set down by an association that says, hey, this person that comes from this program, if they have a certification in their hands, right, that means that they know X, Y, and Z. Okay? Alright, next, registration. So I'm going to go B, registration. Alright, and it says, it's required in some healthcare careers. This is performed by a regulatory body, right, so a professional association or state board that administers examinations and maintains a current list or registry of qualified personnel in a given healthcare area. Alright, examples of registered positions include registered dietitian, registered respiratory therapist, and registered radiologic technologist. That's a lot to write. I don't want to write all that. Okay, if you know what a registration is, don't even worry about it. Okay, if you don't know exactly what a registration is, alright, so this is required by some careers. Okay, and it is done by a regulatory body. Like a professional association or state board. Alright, that's going to be key, I gotta tell you. Okay. Alright, maybe you can put an example, right? So I should probably stick with the same format here. Okay, regulatory body. Okay, so we could have an example looks like a registered respiratory therapist. Okay. Alright, so, and you're going to do this going on through the entire chapter. Alright, I'm not going to do the entire chapter because this would take me a really long time in a video to do. So I'm going to leave that to you. Please let me know if you have questions regarding the actual outline. Okay, now your summary should come next. Okay, and that's going to be at least 5 sentences, and you need to respond to the objectives. Okay, what did you learn? Did you learn what you were supposed to learn? Okay, when you summarize it, you're processing that information and it's helping to solidify it in your brain. Okay, so it's good for you. It's like eating your green beans at dinner, your broccoli. Sometimes you don't always want to, but it's good for you. Okay, next we have review questions. Alright, so for review questions, okay, so maybe explain the differences and similarities between secondary and post-secondary healthcare education. Okay, so I'm not going to make you do complete sentences, but generally if I want to look at the similarities and differences between these two, okay, you can do this if you want, right? And you can do secondary and post-secondary, right? You've probably seen this where everything that's similar goes here, and everything that is unique to each one individual goes there, or different. Okay? And you would answer that, go on to number 2. For each of the post-secondary degrees listed, state how many years of education are required to obtain the degree. For each degree, give 3 examples of specific healthcare careers that require the degree for entry-level workers. Okay, and it lists each one of these. So you'll do 2A, okay, an associate's degree, right? All right, and you'll write it, okay, and you'll do B, bachelor's, so on and so forth. Okay, this is going to be a lot of reading. It's going to be a lot of work up front. We're going to do this for every chapter, but I will tell you what, I wish somebody would have pulled me aside and said, you should be doing this to be successful. Because, you know, I passed through high school and got into college, got into a decent college, and it was too hard. It was too hard because I didn't have the skills necessary to succeed. Not that I wasn't capable, because I did succeed. It just took me a lot more time, a lot more energy, and I was a lot less coordinated in my efforts. Okay, so this is why I am making this a requirement for you guys to do. Now, just to reiterate, okay, make sure in the top right you have your name, your class, the date, Chapter 3 reading notes, okay, and you'll do your outline. As you read the chapter, you'll write down everything you don't know. Only write what you don't know, okay? And then after you get through the whole chapter, you don't just have 4 subjects. You're going to have probably 20, right? Maybe 30 subjects, and you're going to talk about each subject. Generally, as a rule of thumb for this chapter, if it's in blue, it's probably a subject, okay? Then you're going to have your summary, right? Do not forget this. This is important for your learning. All right, so we need to do at least 5 sentences. All right, include information that responds to the chapter objectives at the beginning of the chapter. All right, and then you will complete all the review questions. Okay, if you have questions regarding this, please let me know. My email is bartonj@dearbornschools.org, or you can message me on Remind, which you should all already be on, and I try to be very responsive with that. So thank you for listening. This is the end of the first video on reading notes. You will have an hour-and-a-half lecture over Chapter 3 that will be posted here shortly. Both of these videos will be due by the end of the week. All right, normally they'll be due by Friday night at 6 p.m., but because I'm getting this out to you at Thursday in the afternoon, late afternoon, have all these done for your attendance by the end of the day on Saturday. So by 6 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you.